There are moments in life that you think you're prepared for, moments where you believe your strength, your experience, or your perspective will keep you grounded. But sometimes life hits you with stories so raw, so human, that even the strongest man finds himself holding back tears. I've had countless guests on my podcast, but a few of their stories, 3 in particular, have stayed with me in a way I can't explain. They broke me open, reminded me what it means to be human, and showed me how fragile and beautiful life really is. The first story came from a soldier who had seen more in his 20s than most of us could in 10 lifetimes. He sat across from me, calm, polite, humble, no ego, no dramatics. We talked for a while before he started opening up about his experiences in Afghanistan. He told me about a village they were stationed near, a place filled with kids who would run out every morning to wave at the soldiers' convoy. They'd smile, laugh, ask for candy. One little girl, he said, used to draw pictures in the dirt, flowers, stars, and little stick figures of soldiers holding hands with children. He carried a few of those drawings home, folded carefully in his backpack. But one morning, a roadside bomb exploded near the same spot where those kids used to stand. He said the sound was so loud it erased everything for a few seconds, the wind, the gunfire, even thought itself. When the dust cleared, the little girl was gone. He carried her drawing ever since, laminated and tucked inside his wallet. He said it reminded him why he still believed in kindness, even after seeing the worst of humanity. When he told me that, his voice cracked, not from weakness, but from memory. And for a moment, neither of us spoke. I just sat there thinking about how war breaks people in ways that can't be seen. I remember the silence in the studio, how heavy it felt. I've talked to fighters, hunters, and survivors of all kinds, but there was something about that story, a child's drawing surviving a war when the child didn't, that just crushed me. The second story was completely different, but just as powerful. It came from a comedian, a guy I'd known for years. He'd always been the funny, the loud one, the life of every green room. But that day he started talking about his mom. She had raised him alone, working 3 jobs to keep food on the table. He used to complain as a kid because she was never around. He said he didn't understand why she looked so tired all the time, why she'd fall asleep sitting up on the couch. One night, when he was about 12, he woke up to find her still in her work uniform, asleep with a half-eaten sandwich in her hand. He got angry, at the world, at her, at himself. He thought she didn't care. But years later, after she passed away, he found her old notebooks. Inside them were lists, bills, grocery notes, and little messages to herself. "Hold on," she'd written. "It's worth it. He's worth it." When he read that line out loud during the show, he started crying. I didn't expect that from him. This was a guy who could make a whole room laugh until they couldn't breathe. But that moment wasn't about jokes. It was about love, sacrifice, and guilt. He said he wished he could go back and tell her he understood now, that every late night and every tired smile made sense. He said he'd give anything to hug her again. I remember feeling this tightness in my throat, like the air itself had gotten heavier. I thought about my own mom, about how many things we take for granted until they're gone. It was one of those moments that strips you of any pretense. You realize no amount of success or fame can fill the hole left by someone who loved you unconditionally. The third story came from an athlete, a fighter actually, who had built his career on toughness and discipline. He was known for never breaking, never showing emotion, no matter what happened in the ring. But when he came on the show, he told me something I didn't expect. He said his toughest fight wasn't against another man, but against himself. His daughter had been sick, a rare illness that doctors couldn't fully treat. He talked about spending nights by her hospital bed, holding her tiny hand while machines beeped around them. He said he used to whisper to her that everything would be okay, even when he didn't believe it himself. There was one night when she looked up at him and said, "Daddy, it's okay if you have to cry." That was the night he broke. He said those words shattered him because they came from a child who was comforting her father. He'd spent his entire life learning how to fight pain, how to push through fear, but nothing had ever prepared him for that. She passed away a few months later, and he stopped fighting professionally after that. He said he couldn't throw punches anymore. It didn't make sense to him. Instead, he started coaching kids, telling them that strength wasn't about how hard you could hit, but how deeply you could love. When he finished telling that story, I just sat there. There was nothing to say. You could hear the pain in his voice, but also something else. peace maybe, or acceptance. He said his daughter taught him more in those few years than any coach or fighter ever could. She taught him to be gentle, to be present, to be grateful. And I think that's what got me the most, because sometimes life gives you teachers in the smallest, most unexpected forms. Those three stories, each one of them changed something in me. They reminded me that no matter who you are, no matter how tough or accomplished or famous you might be, life has a way of humbling you. We all carry invisible scars. We all have memories that make our voices shake when we speak them out loud. But that's what connects us. It's what makes us human. Hebrew. I've had thousands of conversations in my life, but the ones that stay with me are the ones where people drop the mask and let you see the truth. A soldier holding on to a child's wing. A comedian realizing his mother's love too late. A fighter learning that strength comes from loss. Those moments don't fade. They live somewhere deep inside you. I think about them often, especially when life feels heavy or confusing. They remind me that tears aren't a sign of weakness. They're a sign that something real has touched you. And if there's one thing I've learned after all these years, it's that being real, being honest about the pain, is what gives life its meaning. We all cry, we all lose, but we also heal, love, and keep moving forward. That's the beautiful, heartbreaking, powerful thing about being alive.